All right, good morning, everyone. I'm going to call the meeting to order. We'll take a roll call, please.
Here, and also our cameras are shut off, so can you switch the things so that our cameras can be turned on?
Unable to start video.
We need the,
There we go. There we go.
thank you.
There's 90 faces.
Member Covert,
Here,
Member Desart, Member DeCiani, Member Eckhoff, Member Elliott,
Here.
Member Hart,
Here.
Member Healy, Member Krajewski, Member Larson,
Here.
Member Noonan, Member Ozog,
Here.
Member Pachelsky, Member Renahan,
Here.
Member Rutledge, Member Salmon, Member Tornatori, Member Zay.
Okay, we do have a quorum, and thanks to the presence of our friend and colleague Member Selman, we have a physical quorum today. So we are going to need to vote to allow the members who are not physically present to participate remotely. So if I can entertain a motion. If motion to second, any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, roll call. Do you do that just from those physically present? Okay, from those physically present, roll call on that motion.
Oh, just who's present? Okay. Member Eckhoff? Member Healy? Member Krajewski? Member Larson?
Aye.
Member Noonan? Member Pachelsky? Member Rutledge? Member Salmon? Member Tornatori? Member Zay.
One, that is a quorum. All right. Do we have anyone signed up for public comment? It appears we have no public comment. Yay. All right. Chairman's remarks. We continue to move forward with our budget cycle. We're going to have an update on the CARES Act allocation and a presentation on employee benefits, in particular the insurance. I think you'll be pleased with the results of that. It's been a lot of hard work. I know the Vice Chairman Zay and I have been working with staff who've done a terrific job once again on the insurance program, which will be virtually no cost increase for this year. So we're excited about that. And with that, I will invite Nick Kottmeyer to do the CARES Act allocation update.
Pulling up a spreadsheet here shortly. So once that comes up, right. IT is busily trying to get this lined out over there. So what's that? Oh, we're getting Member to start on first, and we'll pull it up.
Let's do that so she can participate. So take a minute.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Make this brief. What we've done, and I think everybody received this in email last week, we've updated the latest CARES Act allocation based upon the guidance and the votes that Finance and County Board have taken to date. So what you have, the DuPage County has allocated out of our original $161,042,000 from the CARES Act. We have allocated $152,457 as of the last Finance Committee. We do have today several items. So what that means is coming in today, we have 8.58 million unallocated available for whatever purposes the board would like to direct. We do have several requests on the agenda today or up for discussion. We actually have 5 of them. One, and you're going to be talking these as action items: Village of Bensonville, Village of Addison, City of Aurora, and Choose DuPage are action items that will be discussed later in the agenda. So we don't necessarily need to discuss those right now. But the one that is not up for action, that we just want to kind of get direction of the Finance Committee, and I know we've talked about it at both JPS and Public Works, would be the 18th Judicial Circuit request for the courtroom construction. That's tied to moving the traffic court up to Glendale Heights, but we need an additional courtroom in 18th per the memo that came from Tim Harbaugh to handle the backflow for the foreclosures. That would be 450,000. And if we have direction from Finance Committee, then at the next county board, you will see an amendment to the white construction contract that's being used for all of the campus capital improvements. If the board decides to go with all of the 5 items up for today, that means we will have 3.957 million left unallocated from our CARES Act. So that's a very quick summary. Like I said, it'll be much more discussion for the items with Aurora, Bensonville, and Addison, as well as choose DuPage for the $3 million for the small business. So any questions on that or comments?
We could take down the unshare so I can see if anybody online has a question. Remember something?
We can't hear you.
Can't hear.
I ain't gonna turn those on. You can actually pull it out of the mic stand too. There might be a button.
Now, okay. So my question was, I know that this money is in an interest account. Do we know about how much we've gained so far and if we're expecting we'll be able to get that spent by the end of December still?
Yeah, so the interest bearing question, I've actually talked to our treasurer, Gwen Henry, on that one. I haven't talked to her in probably the last month and a half. The interest is not included in this total. And it was probably in the tens of thousands of dollars, but there will be some additional money left over at the end, and that will be available for the board to decide allocation. And then I think was your other question, will we spend by the end of the year?
Yeah.
Is that
the timing doesn't worry you?
we, as far as the spending for these, we are absolutely aggressively getting it spent. I know that the finance department, the auditor, Mary Catherine especially up there, has been working with all of our partners out there to process the money. I know they've processed a good portion of municipalities. We're trying to really get that out to them quickly.
And then Member Renham. Go ahead, Member Ozag. Then Member Renham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question for Mr. Kottmeyer, I just want to clarify, you said that we had 8.5 unallocated, 8.5 million unallocated. And before we discuss other issues today, do we have a reserve on top of that? I'm not quite clear what we had discussed earlier. I just would like my memory refreshed.
No, great question. In addition to the 8.5 million, we have the 10 million we've allocated.
Okay.
For
So this is 8.5 million that we actually have to spend, and the 10 million is still in reserve. I just wanted to clarify that.
We've got 8.5 million unallocated, 10 million for
Sorry.
expense reimbursement, and then on top of that, we have 10 million in reserves, contingency fund. And I know the original discussion was if there's a vaccination effort, something like that, but we have another 10 million.
And what was the second issue? You said the first was 8 million to spend, and what was the second amount that you said just now?
For county expense reimbursement across all different departments, and then 10 million for contingency.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Okay, Member Renham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think my question probably goes kind of piggybacks off Member Ozag's. I understand with the care center and some of our community services that we are going slightly outside the lines of our additional bucket of say $1 million. In terms of auditing, I'm just wondering, is that where the contingency comes in? Like if there's an extra 100,000 or whatever?
Yeah. And you bring up a great point, and the care center is a great example. Cheryl and I have been in discussions with Janelle over the past couple of weeks. They are already up to their maximum for their $1 million care center COVID expense reimbursement. They also have down lower in the thing, they have $1 million allocated to the care center for their PPE. So we are going to meet with Janelle this week to figure out, and if there is a reallocation, if we need to change things up, or if they need more, that'll be a request that will come back to finance before you guys, so you guys can see what we're trying to do, but we're trying to get a handle if she is going over. I mean, right now, she basically has 2 million allocated to her for the care center. The question is that enough, or do we need to look at other options?
Okay, yeah, I appreciate that. And I think community services, we kind of had a similar situation with some of the mental health, substance abuse items that will be coming up more than our additional allocation. I just want to make sure, as we're considering some of these, great ideas that people are bringing, I really love some of these things that are coming up, but I just want to make sure that we take care of our primary responsibilities first. So thanks for all your work, Nick.
Absolutely. What we'll do is we will reach out to both Janelle and Mary Keating before our next meeting, and we'll have discussions regarding the allocation, whether they have enough, how they're doing, to make sure that they are sufficient.
Okay, Member Krajewski.
I'm guessing that December 30th is really not really a hard deadline, because if they don't spend it by then, we would just allocate it to, with the new guidance, to public safety, which would be able, with millions of dollars in public safety, we just reimburse us for that, and then we could spend it next year.
So, I mean, are you saying, what is the ultimate plan?
Same with this 8 million, we could just dump this 8 million into public safety right now, cover our public safety.
You are absolutely correct.
And then we could use that 8 million next year if we wanted, and to spend on stuff. So even these ones that we've allocated here, if they don't even hit it by December 30th, we just take that excess and dump it into public safety to reimburse ourselves, now that we can reimburse ourselves for millions of dollars of public safety. And then we can use that for next year.
You're correct. With the revised Treasury guidelines that came out, I think beginning of September, it's loosened up how you can use the money for public safety. So theoretically, you could cover up to about $43 to $45 million of our payroll with CARES Act, and it would meet Treasury guidelines.
I mean, just put whatever we got left, just put it in our public safety file, and then we can use that money, whatever we want to do, from whenever we want to do, whether it's this year, next year. We have a lot of flexibility with that, in addition to whatever people don't spend. And then my other question was, and we'll maybe talk about it later, have these communities, have all the municipalities submitted all their 43 million and got their reimbursements, or have any of them?
Oh, no. They definitely, I mean, that's been
Have they submitted and got it?
Oh,
all?
absolutely. They've
all
some
got-
of them have submitted and gotten. Most of them are in the process of being reviewed. A good number of them have submitted and been approved, and check will be cut. So they are absolutely, and I know that's something that finance and Mary Catherine and the auditor have been working closely to do that. But no, a good portion of that money is somewhere in the process. There are a handful of communities who haven't submitted yet, who I know are still working on their request. But we should have an update that we can send to the board within the next 2 weeks where the municipalities are. But as far as the allocation, that's why we come here, for you guys to give us direction how you want to do it. Obviously, I mean, every request we get from municipalities or outside, we bring to you as part of the memo that you received this week and that you guys will be discussing today.
Right. Well, Mike, I guess my question is more specific. Are the ones that coming to us, have they already hit their cap?
Oh yeah, all of these, this is over their cap. I know Aurora has already been paid, that one, so it's over their cap. So yes, all of your requests today are over the cap. These are special requests.
Thank you.
Yeah, we considered a couple of special requests from a couple of the hardest hit communities in the county. And that's one of the things that we're looking at. But we do, as Member Krajewski pointed out, have the option as we get towards the end of the year, if we have not allocated those funds for the many other needs that are out there, we can either by the end of our fiscal year, apply them to our expenses for this year, or theoretically pay December expenses in the next fiscal year, which is 2021 fiscal year, which begins December 1, for public safety and reduce the pressure on the 2021 budget. So those are options that are available to us. I did see that Mary Keating wanted to comment, I believe, on the community services budget. Mary, are you online?
Yes, I'm here. I just wanted to respond to Member Renahan's question. We're still working within the $7 million total that was allocated to the Department of Community Services. So what we have done is moved some funds between some of the kind of subcategories, But I'm still comfortable with the $7 million request that we, first of all, that we'll spend it, and then secondly, that we'll be able to meet the needs that we're seeing so far.
Thanks, Mary.
Okay, any other questions or comments on the CARES Act? Remember to start.
Thank you. So what you just said, Chairman, begs the question, have we received any other special requests from other municipalities that aren't before this board at this time that you're putting on hold? Just because I know these municipalities on the agenda today are among the hardest hit, but have we received other special requests that we haven't seen as a board?
We did on Friday, late Friday, we received a request from West Chicago for consideration, and we are in the middle of reviewing it. I think it's $140,000, but that would be, once we go through and vet it, we would have it on the next county board. Besides that, that's the only one that is hanging out there.
Have all of our municipalities been invited to submit special requests above their allotted cap?
I mean, I don't know specifically. We can talk to Cheryl on that one, but I know she's been working with mayors and managers, and anybody can request. We're considering it and looking at it, and then we'll bring it to the board for consideration.
And Cheryl's on if Cheryl wanted to comment.
I don't know that we've made a formal request, but clearly they're aware of the Bensenville, Addison, Aurora, West Chicago request. So they're free to submit. I think in the last letter they sent on Friday to Chairman Cronin, they did ask for an overall allocation to all 35 if there are funds remaining, as Chair Larson indicated.
I would also add, because Auditor Grogan just came up, at the tutorial we gave that our consultant Guidehouse gave for the municipalities, it was mentioned in that tutorial as well. So they have been made aware.
Thank you.
Okay, I see a member Ozog.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this point, is it reasonable to say that we do not have a countywide PPE program where there would be some overall distribution of PPE? I'm thinking about perhaps a second wave of the virus showing up. And also I'm thinking about the question that was placed on the ballot, the referendum question. Is there something that's going to be countywide? I'm wondering about that because now we're looking at specific counties or specific villages or towns looking for PPE. Any answers on that?
So I can bring up our PPE program. So this board has allocated a total PPE stockpile of $4.8 million. I know our procurement department, OEM, and health department have working very closely. And the good news is the price of PPE has come down drastically since we started, drastically. They have put out a bid that's basically a nationwide bid, and they have a number, I think in the hundreds of people who submitted. And so they are in the process of vetting that and actually procuring that. So at the end, we will have, probably hundreds of thousands, or if not more, masks. So we've got the different availabilities. Now, if we get a request out there for, we need X amount of masks or X amount of PPE, that'd be a decision that the board can make of, do we then supply it? So, but we are still moving forward with the direction of the board to stockpile the PPE as directed.
You're muted, member Ozog.
One other question to follow up with that. Would we be looking at providing PPE to healthcare providers, hospitals, doctors' offices, et cetera, as part of that 4.8 million?
Clearly, that's a direction of the board. Whatever the board wishes to do, we can examine whether, obviously.
Not defined right now.
Obviously, the unknowns of the COVID, our plan right now is to stockpile, and then over November, December, January, see what the needs are and be able to respond accordingly.
Okay, thank you.
Member Krajewski.
Right, the other 1.8 for us, for the care center, for the sheriff, for the facilities. So 3 million is stockpiling for the government use, healthcare providers, the public.
Without a doubt, but like I said, the positive of the whole thing is we're finding the prices are down from the original thing. They're down 100%, 200% from what we originally paid. So I think our money is going to stretch very far.
But our
on that
allocation
one.
is 3 million for the
3
public
million for the
stockpile.
public
The rest of
side.
it's for us
Yes,
internally.
correct.
So, okay.
Member Tortori?
Is the 10 million contingency fund, does that have to be designated to some specific fund before December 31st?
We will, based upon the Treasury guidelines right now, it has to be spent by the end of the year. And assuming that there is not an extension of that, we will have to come back to this board and figure out how to deal with that $10 million, whether that's further reimbursement of our expenses, which we have more than enough, whether it's another policy or program, or whether it's third parties, that's up to the board. Because realistically, I don't think we're gonna spend 10 million on a vaccination effort by the end of the year, which was that was kind of the purpose of that, considering we don't even have a vaccine out right now.
But given the current Treasury guidelines, we have to put it into some other bucket other than contingency. It's got to be designated as something.
The act of allocating, the Treasury doesn't care us allocating. I mean, obviously, at the end of the year, we've got to spend it on something that is a CARES Act eligible expense.
Right.
And so the act of allocating is more of a practice for us in order to just account for it properly, know where it's going. But in December, if we come back and you say, reimburse the county for our police or for the state's attorney, that would be done at that time with some kind of a transfer and a reimbursement, which would be legal.
But my point is we have to do that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, any final question? Member Renahan?
Probably getting down to the nitty gritty here a bit, maybe the weeds, sorry. But Nick, as far as this PPP that's internally for us, are we going to be charging that off to departments, or is this going to be a free, here you go? And I guess I'm thinking about the care center in particular here.
Yeah, no, and it's a great question, because it's with all of the CARES Act, we're not necessarily charging off to the department. So if we buy any of the PPE out of the CARES Act, and let's say health department says we need 20,000 masks, or care center is saying we need 35,000 gowns, and if we have it, they get it. And so it's the accounting is done here, and the purchasing is done within the CARES Act allocation. So anybody internally can get the PPE that we've stockpiled.
Go ahead, Member Chaplin.
Yeah, thank you. And just for clarification, Nick, does that go for other elected officials as well? Like if the clerk needs more for the elections, that's the same?
With all of them, I mean, we've already been working with Clerk Kazmarek, with the sheriff, with the chief judge. Anything that's needed for county operations is available as part of this. Now, realize though too, that there are grants out there, state, and I think maybe even some federal grants that, like for the elections, that offer some reimbursement for that. So obviously we're trying to fully utilize those other sources whenever we can, even IEMA, things like that. But yes, ultimately we want to take care of all of the needs of the county with this allocation.
Okay, any last questions on this? All right, thank you very much, Nick. Great job by staff as always to keep us updated on that. We appreciate it. Now we're on to something, the only thing more exciting than budgeting, of course, is our insurance program. So we will have a presentation on our insurance program, and the folks from Aon are going to present that. I think they're going to do it remotely. Do we have that set up? Got it. You know, the anticipation is killing me. I don't. We're preparing a stockpile. Here's it. you on, folks? Are you on? Speaking, we can't hear you. Wait, there we go. So you have the presentation, we still can't hear you speaking.
Hey, can you hear me?
Now we can hear.
Okay. Hey, Stephanie, can you talk for a second, or should I run it? Okay, I think we're having some IT issues, so I'll go ahead and get started. So my name is Arjun Mirmira. Thanks for having us. I work at Aon and been working with we've been working with the team here at the county on the health and welfare renewal. So overall, we're expecting this will be a pretty easy conversation. This is our third year now working with the county, and this is our best renewal cycle to date. Beto, if you could go to the next page, please. So we're going to go through just a quick renewal summary. So medical, dental, and then life insurance. Give a quick overview of COVID and how that's expected to impact our 2021 spend, and then a roll up of our total summary, and then some details following. Beto, if we could jump to 3, please. So overall, the renewal budget is expected to increase just under 0.25% versus our expected spend for 2020. So the expected increase is mainly driven by expected increases in our PPO and our dental plans. Actually, we're seeing a slight reduction to the HMO, and that's what's overall suppressing spend. So overall, PPO is expected to go up about 3.5%. Our PPO, and that includes our HSA plan, enrollees make up a very small percent of the enrolled population. Lion's share of the folks are in the HMO plan. That plan is expected to go down by just under 1%. Really, this is driven by favorable claims experience in the HMO. So the HMO has a self-funded component to it where the county is paying for all facility or hospital claims and pharmacy claims. That's actually expected to go down on a per employee basis by 2.1% for the HMO. Overall claims are expected to increase a little bit on the PPO. Both are very favorable compared to what we see in the market. So overall market trend rate year over year is about 7%. So you can think of this as really a raw inflation number. Overall administrative services fees. So this is charged by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois. Capitations and stop loss, all charged by Blue Cross, are going up, but at a rate favorable relative to market. So admin fees are going up 3% for the HMO and 1.5% for the PPO. We typically see trend in the market of somewhere between 3 and 5% annually. Capitations. So last year, this was a massive cost driver for us. We saw a big spike. It's actually going down 4.2%. This represents a pretty significant percent of spend for the HMO. So this is favorable. Typically in the market, we'll see a flat or an increase for capitations. Stop loss. So this is the protection that the county purchases for adverse risk for very high cost members, is going up 5%. Again, favorable compared to the market. Market trend is anywhere between 15 and 30%. Very kind of overall good story from Blue Cross here. All of our fixed costs are going up, but at a rate much lower than market, and all claims are very favorable compared to trend as well. And if we go to the next page. So to kind of round out the health and welfare plan, so these lines are significant, but not nearly as impactful to the total spend as medical. Dental cost is expected to increase by about 7%. We actually have a bit of a COVID factor in here, and we'll get into that in a second. Overall experience, so this is claims or utilization of dental services, is projected to increase about 4.5% year over year. This is just a hair over inflation that we see in the market of about 4%. Administrative services, so this is what the county pays to Delta Dental to administer the plan, was up for renewal. And we are seeing a slight increase to the renewal. So it's a 3-year rate guarantee. And currently the county's paying $3.23 per employee. We kind of got a few options here. So a 1-year rate, a 2-year rate, or a 3-year rate. Our recommendation here is to take the 3-year rate. ASO fees tend to inflate about 3 to 5% annually. So by taking that 3.3% increase, we're locked in at a favorable rate for 3 years. Overall vision is under a rate guarantee or rate hold. So no changes to cost there for the county or for the employees. No change to the life and accident rates, again, for both the county and the employees. The Hartford actually, and that's the carrier, provided a renewal rate action of flat, so no increase, which is favorable compared to market. Voluntary benefits, administrative services fees for our flexible spending accounts, employee assistance programs, telemed, advocacy, all ancillary programs are staying flat. And then the last piece on this page, the $20 wellness credit will no longer be available. In terms of employee contributions, again, most things are staying flat here. So no increase to medical. So we're recommending no changes to medical costs overall. Dental, a 7% increase, which is in line with the overall expected spend. As I said previously, dental has a lower overall spend. So what 7% equates to in terms of dollars on a monthly basis for employees is $1.18. If you're electing family coverage, that number is $3.27. Again, more detail in some subsequent pages. Vision, no changes to rates. Same with Hartford's life and accident program, Aflac's critical illness, accident, and legal services. So page 6 here just gives a quick overview of COVID. We're not going to get into too much detail here, but overall COVID-19 has impacted everything, obviously, but particularly the healthcare system in a pretty unique way. Obviously, we're here to talk about 2021, so we'll focus on 2021 for today. Overall, the key here is we utilize data pre-pandemic. So typically when we do the process for the county, we're looking at paid claims or really data up through the summer. And then we're using that data to trend forward because the healthcare system was impacted in a pretty unique way, really in March, April, May, and June. We feel that data doesn't tell us a good story of what's going to happen in the future. So overall, we don't feel that the suppression in the system or really folks deterring care at the rate they did in Q2 is going to continue into 2021. And we've seen that tail off through the market. So we used paid data through March. So pre-pandemic, we applied a slight adjustment to account for any additional cost that COVID will hit into 2021. That was 0.5%. So not extremely significant in the way some folks may be reading in the news and the way it's hitting our group market. Overall, the market's expected to kind of resurface back to flat into next year with a slight, risk plus or minus. If we could jump to the next page, please. So this is just really a breakdown of what we're expecting. So we told you on the first page that we're expecting just under 1/4%. That prior page there that had just flashed shows a breakdown by product. If we actually go back for 1 second, please. So again, this just puts into dollars each of those percent changes. Medical is really driving a majority of our spend. So $21.2 million in 2020 for the HMO and $4 million in 2021. HMO goes down slightly, PPO goes up slightly. All in, $26.5 million expected spend is expected to stay flat or go just below at 26.146 million, which is equal to about 400,000. Another driver here is the wellness program. We said earlier the credits are not going to be available, and that's going to suppress some cost as well. If we go to the next page, please. Again, no recommended changes to the medical plan employee deductions. So these are monthly. Any employee that's electing a plan they're enrolled in today will see the same deduction in 2021. For the dental plan, we told you that there is about $1 to $3 increase to rates for employees on a monthly basis. This is a chart that illustrates that in a little bit more detail, shows enrolled headcount, gross expected spend, so that's overall cost, employee deductions on a monthly basis, and then what it means to the county. So again, 7%, but in an overall dollar perspective, pretty low relative to the overall health and welfare cost. So page 10 here, so we showed you dental, vision, no changes, seeing as we're on rate guarantee, and no recommended changes to the opt-out rates. So if an employee waives coverage or says no to the medical plan and they're eligible, they'll get $50 per month. No changes recommended for the tobacco or spousal surcharges as well. Again, ancillary, so this is Hartford life and disability, or excuse me, life insurance, and then vision as well. No changes recommended here. So just a quick recap on page 12. We're recommending we maintain current vendors, offerings, and designs for the medical plan. For employee contributions, holding those flat on a monthly basis for medical. Confirm and accept the Delta Dental renewal of a 3-year guarantee. Confirm and accept the Hartford Life and Disability renewal, which was under a rate pass. Confirm Superior Vision plans, which are still under guarantee. Continue voluntary critical illness, legal and accident offerings, and continue our current opt-out credit, tobacco and spousal surcharges, and discontinue the wellness credit. So that's really all we had prepared. We'll open up for questions.
Okay, do we have questions from the committee regarding the insurance program? Obviously, we're very pleased with the results that we have. It's going to be a big savings for the employees and their ability to deal with things. So we're happy about that. Member Ozak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a kind of a global question to ask. Next month, the Supreme Court is supposed to hear a case regarding the Affordable Care Act. And should the Affordable Care Act be disbanded, do you see a some sort of impact, not for 2021, I assume your rates would be set, but do you see a larger impact going forward should the Affordable Care Act be eliminated?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think you hit the nail on the head. For 2021, we're not expecting really any changes to the program. For 2022 and beyond, it's possible. A big component to, or there's really 3 big components to the ACA. So we've got our individual mandate. So members are required, or individuals are required to have coverage. We have our employer mandate. So the employers are required to have coverage. And then there's all these other components inside of that. So, based on your population, we wouldn't expect, even if that individual mandate fully goes away, that you'd see a big drop off in membership. Other things are going to factor into other options. But at this time, I wouldn't expect a huge difference. If you get rid of your insurance altogether, that's a whole nother conversation. But then in terms of cost and other services, your plan's pretty much in line with what we'd consider kind of a standard offering. Because your plan is self-funded, there's no additional insurer tax or major fees that are associated with the ACA. So even if the ACA gets fully repealed, go ahead.
Well, my question is now a little more specific. If the ACA is completely disbanded, concerns with, for instance, I have a daughter who's 24 who's on my plan and is insurable until 26. Also, what about pre-existing conditions? Because obviously, I'm sure many employees in the county have pre-existing conditions, and that is one of the tenets that could be thrown out. Is there any, and I'm looking at this also as, when I say globally, I should say nationally, how will this loss of insurance, should this happen, affect the general market? And specifically, what's going to happen with coverage for those particular two groups, pre-existing conditions and insuring dependents up to age 26? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, your plan is what we would call self-insured. So really you're dictating a lot of the provisions in terms of what's covered. So if we were to use the pre-existing conditions as an example, that's the county's decision. So if you want to continue that, even if it's not mandated, that's something you absolutely can still do. From an employer perspective, we are not expecting a massive change in eligibility for dependents, coverages that are covered like pre-existing conditions, et cetera. Really what you might see is more in the private individual market, that there could be a bit of a delta or a change to what's happening today. It's going to take time to see how this all shakes out, but we're not expecting employers across the board and insurers really to even recommend those types of changes. So those types of provisions, even if ACA is gone, we'd expect to stay in place.
Well, in particular for pre-existing conditions.
Absolutely. Yeah. And to be honest, from an actuarial perspective, there's some value financially in covering those as well, and making sure people are getting covered and to make sure their conditions don't get any worse. So, we can get into that, obviously in detail next year if it comes up, but overall, we're not expecting a huge change in the market.
Well, the self-insured element changes the picture. So we have determination available to us. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Just to follow up on that, I mean, if the Supreme Court rules it unconstitutional, we're talking about our employees here at the county that we provide insurance for. And we do have provisions in our policy that if you were to lose coverage during this, you're able to join our insurance at that point, and those conditions, pre-existing conditions, would be covered. So what we're talking about here is insurance coverage for our employees that we already provide. And if somebody does not take our insurance and loses their coverage during the term, even if they were on their husband's policy and their husband was laid off, or they have a term in our provision in our coverage to then join our insurance. So we are covered on that if anything were to happen. Not only if it's the scenario that Member Ozog's talking about, but any scenario where they lose their job or their spouse who they're covered under loses their job, they're able to then join our plan at that for loss of coverage.
Right. It's very difficult to predict some of the things that are going to happen nationally, but this board has always been, as long as I've been on this board, very committed to taking care of its employees and making sure that they're adequately protected. I wouldn't expect that to change going forward. Member Krajewski, and then Member DeCiani.
Slight increase of for the health insurance, or did it have our more projected of a higher cost?
Yeah.
Yes, we took it all into consideration.
So his
We
base
had-
budget has this cost in there?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's all
thanks.
in there
That's
factored
fine.
in.
Member DeCiani, and then Member Healy.
Yeah, aren't all group by federal law and state law, aren't all group plans mandated to, whether ACA is here or not, mandated to accept pre-existings, and our state mandates guarantee coverage till 26. So regardless of whether ACA is in place or not, I believe all group insurance must cover pre-existings by state and federal law prior to ACA, and also the again, the issue of covering the state mandates till 26. I would believe that would basically overrule any type of a decline that ACA would have if that were removed. Correct?
Is that a question or just a comment?
A question, I believe. I have a question to the Aon person.
So he's basically asking, don't state law as well as federal law that pre-existed the Affordable Care Act mandate some level of pre-existing coverage as well as coverage up to age 26?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, then Member Healy.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank you for all the work you did on this. I mean, I deal a lot with the other counties in the state, and I was just on the phone. I had to run out of the room with somebody in Kane County, and they're getting hit with anywhere between 7 and 20% increase in their health insurance. And they were going, you guys got to be getting killed. And I'm like, I'm not hearing that. And they go, well, we had 1 year good in a row. We have 1 year good. I'm going, we've actually now had 3. So Wood, thank you for everything you guys are doing to keep these costs where they are for our employees and for the county. And just wanted to say, great job.
Thank you. Okay, any further questions or comments with respect to the insurance plan? Obviously, it's good news for us and especially more importantly, good news for our employees. So we're excited to hear that. All right, seeing none and hearing none, we will thank you, Aon folks. Thank you, Margaret, for all your work on that, and Nick and Jeff and everybody who participated in that process, Vice Chairman Zay, who's involved in that as well. All right, on to the approval of minutes. Entertain a motion to approve the minutes of September 22, 2020. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this item? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those are approved. On to budget transfers.
20 budget transfers.
We have a motion and a second on the budget transfers. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those are approved under procurement requisitions, finance.
We have another one, Mr. Chairman. I move
I'm
on
sorry,
item
consent.
8, consent item.
We have a motion and a second on consent. Any discussion on this item? Seeing and hearing none, all in
Aye.
Any opposed? That is approved. Now on to procurement requisitions, starting with
Thank you,
finance.
Mr. Chairman, I move to combine and approve items A1 through 4 on the finance agenda.
Are we taking 5 off?
Oh, I'm sorry, and 5.
All right, we have a motion and a second to combine and approve agenda items A1 through 5 under finance procurement requisitions. Any discussion as to any of them? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Those are approved. Environmental, Chairman Chaplin.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Get my glasses on here. I move to approve ENP 026720 recommendation for the approval of a renewal of a contract purchase order to Scarce for the environmental education services for the Department of Building, Zoning, and Planning for the period of December 1st, 2020 through November 30th, 2021, for a contract total not to exceed $136,500.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on this item. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is approved. On to Judicial and Public Safety, Chairman Eckhoff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move approval of JPS 268-20, contract to William Warbeck as a conflict attorney for the 18th Judicial Circuit.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this item? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is approved. On to Public Works, Chairman Healy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd first like to get a show of hands to, so that we can make sure we have a majority of the board in favor of the $450,000 that we're going to need to spend for the extra court. We talked about this at that special meeting, at the combined meeting of Public Works and Judicial Public Safety, and I was just hoping to get a show of hands of those that are in favor of the
All right.
450. And again, it'll come
So,
back.
as you know, we had an extensive discussion about the various options available, and the chief judge's recommendation was to build the extra courtroom, which you can use now to decrease some of the pressures on various courts, I think mental health and some of the others, and then ultimately to transition that to a court to be used for traffic when, a couple of years down the road, and that would be a cost of $450,000 that could be done with CARES Act dollars at this time. That is the proposal that's going to be on the table, and one of the things that you're going to see in the expenditures today. So just to make sure that we are all on the same page, let's have a show of hands. It's not a vote formally on the process, but on this issue, for those who favor doing it that way.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead. Member
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
this is for the court within the courthouse building.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's do this again. All in favor, just show of hands. We have virtually everybody.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to move for approval of items 1 through 5 of the Public Works agenda.
Can we take 3 separately, please?
Okay.
What?
Can you do 1, 2, 4, and 5? She wants to take 3 separately.
Can we move on? I'd like to move for approval, combine and approve 1, 2, 4, and 5.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Motion and a second. What about 6? Did you want to add that one in there?
No.
Okay. 1, 2, 4, and 5 under the Public Works agenda. Any discussion as to any of these items? Member Rutledge.
Chairman, I just have a quick question about item number 1, semi-annual cleaning of kitchen ducts, hoods, and fans. My understanding is there's not a lot going on in that building to begin with. So I'm just questioning the need for this service twice a year if nothing's really going on in that building.
Nick, do you want to comment on that? Or okay, Tim Harbaugh is on the line. He can address this.
Health department requirement, I guess is what I'm looking.
And they're still cooking.
All right, good morning. How are you?
Good.
This is a code item. It's under state statute. It has to be done twice a year.
Okay, thank you.
Short, sweet, and to the point. Appreciate it. We love those kinds of speeches. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion as to 1, 2, 4, or 5? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Those are approved.
Thank you. I'd move on item number 3, which is an agreement with the Glendale Heights.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on this Glendale Heights agreement. I see Member Renahan and I think Member Chaplin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do appreciate the chief judge bringing our attention to the focus court, and I, thoroughly support that. I am wondering though, on the Glendale Heights thing, it just seems that this, again, is a long way around the basis. We already have the operating field court in Downers Grove. It's not perfect, we know that, but Glendale Heights wasn't perfect either. We know that. It's the largest number of tickets in Downers Grove. We're helping our municipalities and state police prosecute these tickets, and it's the furthest geographically. To me, it just makes, if we're going to talk about a 2-year situation, it just makes a lot of sense to stay in Downers Grove, and then, instead of doing this shuffle, to basically move the Addison over to Glendale Heights. So, I'm going to be a no on this item just because this is a long way around the basis. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. And I do want to agree with everything that Member Renahan said. And we have discussed this item so many times, and we've received so many different stories, so many conflicting stories. It's really hard to make a decision on this because, every time it was brought to board, there was a different version of why we needed this. So I'm going to also be voting most likely no on this item as well.
Okay, any further discussion on this item? Member Krajewski.
Not Downers because of security. We left Glendale Heights because the chief judge a few years ago had concerns about security. Now we're going back to Glendale Heights. Right now. And then we got plenty of room here. We had staff tell us that there's additional parking. There's plenty of room in this building here if we bring everything back.
Okay, I think Member DeCiani was waiting to speak, and then Member Tornatore.
I'm a little challenged with it. I'm gonna vote for Glendale Heights. I believe we need field courts. I am challenged that we are not keeping our field court in Downers and or the option we had in Woodridge. to me is challenging. But I will support the Glendale Heights as a compromise and as an accommodation to the chief judge. Just challenge, because I know the rest of the county is having to drive quite a bit, and it is what it is. But I'll support it. Just challenge with again closing our Downers / Woodward's options. Thank you.
Dormitory. This all started, of course, when we talked many months ago about the Woodward's facility, and there's no question that Downers Grove has virtually no security. Glendale Heights has much more security than Downers Grove because the police station is right there. So to suggest that Glendale Heights and Downers Grove are even similar in terms of security is just not true.
There's also not a bar there.
Yeah. Additionally, my understanding is that if we were to stay in Downers Grove, there would be a significant contribution which we would have to pay toward the parking lot for a period of time which would extend way beyond whatever time we would be there for the court system. Further, there is no room in the courthouse right now to bring in Downers Grove. We're maxed out as it is. We've got 2 auxiliary rooms that are being used as courtrooms right now for Addison. To suggest that we can bring Downers Grove here just belies the facts of what are there. So while the courtroom is being built in the courthouse to ultimately bring in the 3rd field court, we need to take care of the current tickets that are in the Downers Grove courthouse. The only logical place for that to go is an existing facility which we were at for years, which is Glendale Heights, which has significant security protections for our people. It's my understanding the chief judge is going to do some maneuvering in terms of the municipalities to make those municipalities that are closer to Glendale Heights more likely to go there than to go somewhere else. I'm going to leave that to him because he knows best in terms of how to deal with this. But this is just stopgap. It's a place to go. There's no way staying in Downers Grove is a benefit to anyone in the county, including the people who have to go there and deal with the people playing bingo in the back while their traffic tickets being heard. So there's Member Eckhoff, then Member Pachowski, then Member Heath.
I would agree with everything Mr. Tornatori just said. In addition, as the chief judge likes to point out to us every time we talk about this, Downers Grove was supposed to be a 2-year solution and it's turned into a 22-year solution, which I think has turned into a problem, because I think one of the important things about a courthouse and a courtroom is decorum, and having it at the VFW next to a bar, I think degrades the decorum of the proceedings. Even though it's traffic court, most people in the public, their only experience with the court system is through the traffic courts. And it's very important that they understand that even though it's traffic court, it's very important that the judge and everybody else in the courtroom takes what's going on very seriously. Glendale Heights has got a good facility for it. I'm not exactly sure why we pulled out of there before, but they want us to come back. They're perfectly equipped now to take a field court at virtually no cost. And we're going to move the 3 sheriff employees over there with what I'll call metal detector, since I can't pronounce the other word, for safety purposes. So we should be all set, and that sets us up to, have all 4 in the main courthouse if the county board wants to do that in a couple of years. So I support this.
Okay, thank you. And let me just say, by the way, and then I'll call on you. We don't mean by any of these comments to denigrate the folks at the VFW. They've done a great job of supporting us. We appreciate their efforts. It's just that for purposes of conducting a court setting, is it American Legion? Whichever is the American Legion. We obviously appreciate what they do. It's just a difficult situation. The chief judge has for many years expressed severe security concerns about this, and there would be the upfront cost of having to pay for a repaving of their parking lot in order to continue there, and that's a substantial expense that's not associated with going to the Glendale Heights facility. Member Pachowski, then Member Healy.
We discussed all 4 options, and I think it was clear that a substantial majority desired to use Glendale Heights. One of the reasons I liked it is the chief judge says they're going to be getting the backlog of existing cases resolved, and I think that's an issue that we need to address. So for that reason alone, I think Glendale Heights makes sense, so we can get up to date with our cases that are sitting.
Member Healy?
Mr. Chairman, first of all, it's a magnetometer. Yes, looking at both Glendale Heights and Downers Grove, it is much better security-wise at Glendale Heights than it is at Downers Grove, and that's what the chief judge decided, and that's the one who more or less makes all the decisions on this stuff. I think the greatest thing is that after several years of discussing it with two chief judges, and now we're going to have a new one, so I'm going to have a meeting with him beforehand, is that the current chief judge has talked about the fact that there's a need for I think it's called an Article 5 committee, where all the municipalities will get together with the judge and everybody else, and they'll talk about whether there's a need to have the officers show up at the courtroom and have specific dates on things of that nature. In other words, what I've been trying to get them to for the last several years is that they don't need to bring the officers to court unless there's a trial. And what they decided, and the chief judge finally found the order, and I believe it's 40 years old, is that going forward, we can say we don't need the officers. If a person wants a trial, they will set the trial at the next court date, and that one, the officer would need to be present. That would save the municipalities money, that would save everybody time and effort, and would reduce the problems that we have on a lot of these things, because it would then set a very specific court date for trials. And that's, I think, the chief judge was going to recommend to the new chief judge that he call that committee of the municipalities and the circuit and talk about that one issue. So, Mr. Chairman, I would, in closing, is a motion already made and seconded to approve the the lease with Glendale Heights.
Okay. Nobody's yet asked to call the question, so I do see Member Renahan.
I did. I was closing. Geez, Julie.
I think we are still having a discussion here. You know, I'm going to say I appreciate the urgency of my colleagues to cure a security issue that's been going on 22 years. I mean, come on, please. I mean, I really think we can help balance the budget for next year by taking the money we allocated in March to move the Downers Grove Court. I think this does help set us up for some benefit next year. I'm still a no.
Okay.
Yeah, there is no extra money being budgeted for next year for this. It's actually a decrease from this year because it's cheaper at Glendale Heights than it is at Downers Grove. So roll call.
All right. With all due respect, if I may be in charge for a while.
No.
Call the roll on this one.
Member Healy.
Aye.
Member Krajewski. Member Larson.
Aye.
Member Noonan. Aye. Member Ozog.
No.
Member Pachowski. Aye. Member Renahan.
No.
Member Rutledge. Aye. Member Selman. Member Tornatori. Aye. Member Zay. Aye. Member Chaplin.
No.
Member Covert.
Aye.
Member Desart.
Aye.
Member DeCiani.
Aye.
Member Eckhoff. Member Elliott.
Aye.
Member Hart.
Aye.
13 ayes or 14 ayes and 4 noes. So the matter is approved. Thank you.
Item number 6 is PWR 511, Second Amendment to the lease dated April 6, 1976 between the county and the Fair Association. This is a 3-year lease extension as was made last meeting. We talked about it.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this item? Member Eckhoff.
I previously over the weekend sent to all of you a proposed amendment with paragraphs 8, 9, 10, and 11. I sent that to you all individually so we didn't violate the Open Meetings Act, and I've distributed it again to all the members present here today. And I would move to amend the pending resolution to incorporate these agenda items or these.
We have a motion and a second to amend the lease presentation as I understand, as presented. First, I'm going to go to the board for questions and comments, and then I'll invite Jim to to speak. Member Krajewski, then Member Healy.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Mentioned a few times that this is a 3-year lease. It's actually not. It's 2 years and 9 months. It's September 30th, 2023. The old lease expired December 31st, 2020. So it's not 3 years, and we discussed that a few times. But I'm just going to make a motion to amend line number 7, the lease term extension, to go to September 30th, 2022, which is 21 months.
All right, why don't we deal with the amendment, the proposed amendments first, and then you can further.
Well, like all these other ones are in here, so I'm just amending that motion to include line 7, in addition to 8, 9, 10, 11, because I had number 8 too last week.
What is the exact proposal for your amendment to the amendment?
It's just under line 7, lease term extended, which it's not a 3 years, it's 2 years, 20, or 2 years and 9 months. It's going to be 2022 instead of September 30th, 2023. Changing it to 2022.
So you want it to only be a 2-year extension rather than a 3 year?
It'd be 1 year and 9 months. Staff wants to have it end on the fiscal year, September 30th. The solution that's currently here is
Fiscal year ends November 30th, not September.
Year ends September 30th. The lease ended December 31st. It's supposed to be a 3-year lease, not a 3 year, 9 month solution. I'm going to ask to make a motion to make it 1 year and 9 months. Staff wants to keep this lease on their fiscal year.
Okay, so we have a motion to amend the amendment to include a provision that reduces the time of the agreement from
Provision
2 years.
Changing the date.
I understand, from 2 years and 9 months essentially to
1
1 year and 9 months ending September 30 of 2020. Do we have a second on that proposed amendment? All right, so we have a motion and a second on the amendment to the amendment. Any discussion on the proposed amendment to the amendment? Member Chaplin. Member Chaplin, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. So it's my understanding that we went out that extra 12 months because some of the contracts with event holders were out that long. Is that correct? Is that why we extended it out that extra year or 12 months?
Certainly some of the comments we received from the Fair Association indicated that it is easier for them to get contracts and people in if we can commit to 3 years rather than to 1 or 2. And if you want to that issue, Jim, go ahead.
I guess I have a very difficult time speaking to the issue because I have no idea what the amendments that are amended to right here. That's never been shared with us. I have no idea what's here other than what we discussed at the last.
So right now, the amendment that's on the floor, aside from those, I will do it in a moment. Settle down. First of all, the only amendment that's before us right now for discussion is a proposed amendment to those amendments, which is to shorten the agreement so that it would end September 30, 2022 rather than 2023. And Member Chaplin asked about why we would be suggesting a nearly 3-year lease rather than a 2-year lease or nearly 2-year lease, given the circumstances. And so if you'd like to articulate why the Fair Association is asking for a longer term.
2 parts to that. One is why we're actually here is the pandemic we're in.
I'm sorry?
The pandemic that we're currently in. The startup of our business is very uncertain. We're not sure what the future brings, and I'm sure most of you are in the same position, what I've heard discussion here today. So we do have contracts that go out 3 years with many of our vendors. In order to sign those contracts, we do have 3-year leases. Currently, we have no shows that we're going through to the end of this year. We do not know the start date of when we'll be able to start our actual business back up, just due to the fact that where we're at with this pandemic and the protocols that are in place by the state. So we could have a whole nother year, for all we know, of where we're at. So we asked for that extra time. And again, the idea of this time is to give us the time to continue to negotiate the current lease that we were working on for the past 2 years and get that finalized. So that's why we asked for the time, because again, many of us here, you guys as well as us, may still be dealing with this pandemic situation. Contracts that we have currently signed for next year, some of those we may not be able to realize. And so some of those are looking for extensions out even further because the uncertainty. And that's what's brought us here today is uncertainty of a pandemic that we're all facing.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to ask for further comments on this and just to calm Member Healy's nerves on this one. So the proposal, we have the proposed amendment to the amendments, and the amendments that were originally proposed that Member Krajewski is asking for a further amendment to include a financial reporting provision that requires each year within 6 months of the end of the year, the lessee's fiscal year, they'll submit a complete audited financial statement, et cetera. I'm not going to read the entirety of it. It would alter the contract with respect to the hours of operation so that all activities and events, with the exception of the county fair and 3 overnight events, will cease at 11 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays and 10 p.m. Sundays through Thursdays. And then number 10 is a lighting and sound amplification provision that basically excludes certain aspects of outside lighting or sound amplification in such a way that impacts the neighbors. And then the final provision is a lesser agreement with other governmental entities that they may execute separate agreements with a list of different entities. And do you want to provide clarification?
It just says that anything that's lit or amplified has to match the hours that are the time above. Is that right, Grant? Yes.
Okay. So
without coming to the county board.
Right. So right now we're back to the proposed amendment to the amendment, which would shorten the proposed lease agreement from extending to September 30 of 2023 back to only September 30 of 2022. We have a motion and a second on that item. Member Krajewski, then back to Member Chaplin, and then Member Selman.
Let's see. My amendment to go to September 30th, 2022 is just bringing it back to the original agreement that was brought to Public Works after I worked with Chairman Healy and Nick Cottenmeyer and staff, and after the months of negotiations with Jim McGuire and the Fairgrounds, that's what was brought before us. Staff recommended 18 months, so they could do, it's actually 21 months, but they could do 2 county fairs in that time while they looked at a longer term lease or what to do with the property. So at the Public Works Committee, I think it was a 4-2 vote. It was extended to 3 years, but actually it only turned out to be 2 years and 9 months in this resolution. And my motion is going back to what it was agreed upon as it came in front of Public Works.
Okay, thank you. Member Chaplin and then Member Selman.
No, I'll save my question for the next set of amendments. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Selman. You're not on.
Not on? No, okay, just closer. Member Krajewski, I think I maybe am confused about your amendment because I thought the purpose was to extend it 3 years. You're saying you don't want the 3-year extension. That's more what you're trying to get fixed versus, I thought it was a December versus
It's to shorten the
September.
extension. The extension proposed in what's before us on the agenda is to extend the current contract with certain additions to it until September 30, 2023. Member Krajewski is proposing shortening that to September 30, 2022.
Okay, so I think I made up that December part. Okay.
September
For the
30th
2
of
years.
2022.
Okay.
It was amended there to go to 3 years, although it didn't show up here. It only showed up as 2 years and 9 months. I don't even think that's right because we agreed.
Yeah. Okay, I just want to make sure I understood. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the proposed amendment to the amendment, which would shorten the terms of the proposed agreement? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, please.
Member Eka.
No, I start with Member Krajewski. It's his proposed amendment to the amendment.
I'm sorry, I thought Member Eka.
No, we're right now on the amendment to the amendment.
My apologies. Okay, Member Krajewski. Member Larson.
Aye.
Member Noonan. Member Ozog.
No.
Member Pachowski. Member Renahan.
No.
Member Rutledge. Member Selman. Member Tornatori. Member Zay. Member Chaplin,
No.
Member Covert,
No.
Member Desart,
No.
Member DeCiani,
Aye.
Member Eckhoff, Member Elliott,
No.
Member Hart,
Aye.
Member Healy. 7 noes.
So we have 11-7, so that amendment is now added to the proposed list of amendments that are, that have been presented by Member Healy, both verbally and in a pre-written proposed amendment. So we are now back to that amendment as amended. So now we have all of the different paragraphs, which are Member Healy's motion to.
Member
That's right.
The
It's Member
amendments are
Eckhoff's.
coming from Grant.
It's Member Eckhoff's motion. So now, Member Chaplin, as to the package of amendments, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Chairman. So am I correct that this information was not given to to Jim McGuire at the fairgrounds? Is that what I heard?
That is correct. I just received it now.
Okay, so we did not give consideration. I mean, this person is a part to the contract and we did not send this amendment over to the fairgrounds to review. Can you guys not hear me?
Yes, we heard.
Okay.
And that 9, 10, and 11.
Start over, Member Eckhoff, because you just came on so people could hear you.
Okay, we've been negotiating a 5-year extension, which I would like to get to and resolve as quickly as possible. And most of these amendments were part of it. I think the financial reporting is probably new. Let me also point out that, you know, what these amendments do is set up parameters. If there's a 4th event that's overnight that the Fair Authority would like to put on, they can always come back to us and ask that we amend this to do it. But this just sets up some initial ground rules. If there's a lighting and sound amplification, which really is in there because there was a taping of a Chicago PD, which we didn't know about, that lit up the neighborhood at nighttime like a sun, they can come back and ask for it. But I just want, and I think the neighbors want, some general parameters they have to be followed. And then if there's going to be some special item that exceeds this, then, you know, we can talk about it. So.
All right.
Yeah, I understand that. I just,
Hang on. Everyone hang on.
yeah. Do I still have the floor or no?
Member Healy who has presented the original, this is under his committee. He is he's moving to table this presentation so that it can be addressed.
No, I'm not going to do that.
So we can have a fuller discussion.
I'm pulling it for 2 weeks.
All right, so we will reconsider this issue
Review it.
in 2 weeks. And go ahead, if you have brief comments, I understand.
We did not receive these, so I had no idea what you were talking about. Yes, I agree with what some of these had been presented prior. I have no problem with any of these except possibly number 11. Number 11, agreements with governmental entities. That's what we do. And I don't know if anyone's recognized what we do at the fairgrounds and what's been going on. I've invited everybody from here to come over and see it. For the past 40 years, we've done the Wheaton fireworks. We support it, we take care of it. For 27 years, we've done Monroe Middle School promotion ceremony at the fairgrounds. No charge, we take care of it. We invite everybody over there. Many people, we support it all the way through. We support Wheaton Park District, both with programming in our buildings, which I'm not sure everyone understands. DuPage County Fair Association has built every building on the grounds, every bit of infrastructure on the ground. We pay the bills, we pay the electric. There are buildings. Our lease is for the ground. We let our facilities out currently. There's probably 14 rows of people in line for COVID testing because we've supported your initiative to do good works for the community. Yesterday, I spent 7 hours out in the rain, directing traffic, keep comfortable the people from DuPage County to keep them voting, to get them to vote comfortably. Why do we do this? To reflect well on the fairgrounds and to reflect well on DuPage County. Chicago PD filming. I love stories. They're great stories. I love telling the story about Chicago PD and the filming. The fact of the matter is, I was the last one to leave the fairgrounds the day they filmed. I left at 9 o'clock.
Okay, so.
So what I'm saying is,
If I might just interrupt for a second. I thought you were going to propose that these were all acceptable and that we could go forward. It sounds like you have an issue with one of them, which
I'm
means we still.
acceptable, but I'm just trying to understand why. What they're being brought forth for. I'm acceptable to all of these, but you put things in place to fix something. Nothing here is broken. The fairgrounds isn't broken. The relationship between governmental entities is not broken. It works extremely well, and we do a great job of helping community, working with community, from everybody from the school district to the park district to the city of Wheaton to the cook to the county here, the county government. We help everybody. The police department, the fire department, the sheriff's department. They call, we step up. Our facilities are made available for everything.
Okay.
Almost 20 years, Sheriff Safety Saturday. Our tables, our chairs, our support. We put it out there, we make it happen. And we've been doing this for a long time. So
Certainly.
I'm in agreement with everything here. I'd like to move it forward. I'd like us to get it done. I'd like to move to a place where we can put this to rest. We have a lot going on trying to find our way through this COVID pandemic. We got a lot of things that we're trying to support, and a lot of things we're doing at the fairgrounds. And I'd like to kind of at least put this to rest so that we can move forward and get onto that, and then finalize this with Nick and Tim for the long-term lease as that comes forward.
All right, I will thank you very much, and I appreciate it, and I know we appreciate a lot of the support you've provided. I will take it back to Member Healy. Do you still want to table this matter, or if there's no objection from the Fair Association, do you want to move the amendment forward as presented?
Let me just ask a very simple question to you, Jim. Are you okay with the changes and the amendments that were made? Yes or no? It's either a yes or no.
Yes.
If it's a no, it goes back to committee.
Yes,
If it's a yes, then we'll go ahead and vote for it, because obviously they're in favor of it.
Okay, so we are not pulling it, so then we are back to the discussion on the amendment, which is Member Eckhoff's amendment as amended by Member Krajewski. I will open it up for further discussion from the board. I see Member Elliott's hand is up.
Sure. And this is a question I think maybe for Jim McGuire, recognizing that he's just seen this. On number 11, it starts off by saying that the lessor, which is the county, right?
Yes. Yes.
The lessor may execute separate agreements with all of these different school districts, governmental entities, and so forth. Is that the way it's currently operating now, that the county is doing that, or is the Fair Association doing that?
The Fair Association has done that historically. We continue to do that, and we have very strong relationships with all of those governmental entities, and there is not an issue. My only objection to this is that we do need to control that. We would like to continue to control that, and there is no issue in how that has been controlled over the past 67 years of our existence.
Okay, I understand that, but if I'm reading this correctly, what this number 11 would do is it would say that the county, not the Fair Association, the county gets to execute agreements for use of the premises as long as, in the county's view, it doesn't interfere with what the fairgrounds are doing. And I want to make sure that you're comfortable with that, because that sounds different from what you've been describing.
It's very much different from what
Then we're tabled.
What I'm describing, and let's table it, because that's where we're at. But I just don't understand.
Okay.
These gotchas got to keep coming. I've been here for the past 4 weeks.
Okay, I appreciate it.
4 to
I'm
5
sorry.
weeks keep coming back, and each time it's the same story.
All right. Well,
And I don't understand it, because
We're
if
gonna
this
table-
would have
we're
been
gonna table the
presented
motion.
to us earlier, because I don't even think that is probably the same wording that was in the other one.
It's
Right.
tabled
It's
until,
tabled.
it'll be a county, it'll be a public works in 1 week, it'll be a county board in 2 weeks. Nope, I can pull anything.
The chairman of Public Works has pulled the item from the agenda We'll revisit this in 2 weeks. We know what the issues are now and what the proposed amendment is. Mr. McGuire, you'll have the opportunity to comment then as well, or if you have any further discussions along the way,
You
but
have
we do.
another item on the agenda for me today.
Okay, thank you. All right, with that, we will move on to transportation. Chairman Pachowski. I'm sorry, I skipped stormwater. How dare I see it?
Thank you,
Stormwater
Mr.
Chairman.
Chairman. I move to combine and approve items 1 through 5 on the stormwater agenda.
All right, we have a motion and a second to combine and approve agenda items 1 through 5 under stormwater. Any discussion as to any of them? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Those are approved. That was easy. Technology, Chairman Hart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to combine and approve items 1 through 4 under technology.
We have a motion and a second to combine and approve agenda 1 through 4 under technology. Any discussion as to any of them? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? They're approved. Now we're on to transportation.
Thank you, Mr.
Don,
Chairman.
Chairman Pachowski.
Scared me there. I move to approve DTP 26620, a contract to Hold Direct Inc. to furnish and deliver automotive emergency lighting as needed.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this item? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is approved. On to finance resolutions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to combine and approve items A through L. These are all acceptance appropriations and COVID funding.
All right, we have a motion and a second to combine and approve agenda items A through L under finance items. Do we have any discussion as to any of these finance resolutions? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those are approved.
Mr. Chair, move on FIP 27220. We have a mistake. We have a Scribner's error. The amount is $124,489.50. And also it's a period of a contract from 10/13 to September 30th, 2021 to Midland Paper.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve this item with the corrections of the Scrivener's errors. Do we have any discussion as to this item? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's approved.
Mr. Chairman, I move on action item FIR 951A-18, amendment to contract between the county and operating engineers local 150.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this item? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is approved.
Mr. Chair, move on FIR 561-20, placing names on payroll.
Second. We have a motion and a second on this item. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That is approved.
Mr. Chair, move on FIR 564-20, emergency procurement, COVID items.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on this item, which is in the amount of $160,692.93. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is approved.
Mr. Chairman, I move on FIR 566-20, additional appropriation for general fund, $1,104,952.
We have a motion and a second on this item. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is approved.
Mr. Chairman, I move on FIR 567-20, resolution authorizing the chairman of the board of DuPage County to approve a portion of bond issue for the benefit of St. Patrick's residents in Naperville, as required by federal tax rules.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on this item. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is approved.
Mr. Chairman, move on FIR 568-20, recommendation agreement between DuPage County Fair Association and DuPage County, use of the county fairgrounds for emergency COVID services.
All right, we have a motion and a second on this item. Do we have any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is approved. We very much appreciate the efforts of the Fair Association to help out with the COVID crisis. Okay, informational.
Mr. Chairman, I move to receive and place on file A, payment of claims, B, appointments, C, grant proposal notifications.
We have a motion and a second on these informational items. Do we have any questions as to any of them? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
That is approved. Any old business? Member Krajewski.
At last finance meeting about our budget, and as we move forward to approving it, I know there was a comment, I think, from Member Zay about some additional support for public safety, the sheriff's office, and I think another member may have said that. I also asked for the sheriff to get us some information on a drug and tack unit to start. So maybe we could just ask the sheriff to get us some information that we can look at regarding that as we move forward to approving our budget. Thank you.
And Jim, we do have executive session if these don't go too far. Do we have any, anyone from the sheriff's office on who wants to comment on that? Bob Torp is on.
Judicial public safety next week.
Okay. Is that acceptable, Bob?
Yes, we've sent something over to member Zay to review and share with the board.
Okay. Thank you. Anything
Thank
else for old business? Seeing and hearing none, anything under new business? Seeing and hearing none, we are on to.
I already did. You're like 3 seconds behind.
Sorry, somebody forgot the mute button. On to executive session. So pursuant to Open Meetings Act 5 ILCS 120/2C21 review of executive session minutes, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session. We have a motion and a second. We need a roll call on this item.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the mover.
Who moved?
Okay, thank you.
Member Charles.
Member Zay. Member Chaplin.
Aye.
Thank you. Member Covert.
Aye.
Member Desart.
Aye.
Member DeCiani.
Aye.
Member Eckhoff. Member Elliott.
Aye.
Member Hart.
Aye.
Member Healy. Member Krajewski. Member Larson.
Aye.
Member Noonan. Member Ozog.
Aye.
Member Pachowski. Member Renahan.
Aye.
Member Rutledge. Member Selman. Member Tornatori.
Okay, all ayes. We are now in executive session. Now we need to do, you need to clear the room. Yeah, if any staff are on the call who would not ordinarily be in executive session, if you could please drop off so that we can proceed forward. I was IT request in that regard. Thank you.